How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining me with another math lesson with Mr. Whitford. Today we will continue to work on our Unit 6 lessons, looking at lesson 6.2c, percent of a whole and decimal percent of a whole. Join me as you open up your packet and looking at 6.2c. All right. Great. Now, ladies and gentlemen, so far we've been talking about calculating percents of different numbers, percents of whole numbers. We've looked at calculating percents of different word problems, different stuff such as, how many people on the football team, stuff like that, looking at word problems, even as you're presented right here in the bell work with 2 word problems as well. We've talked about understanding percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. Percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. That is a very significant and very essential equation that we need to be able to solve these particular problems. It helps you understand what the part is, what the whole is, even what the percent is, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, please follow along as we go through this. At this time, please pause the video to begin to work on the bell work. I need you to identify the missing values here. You'll see we have 10 students in the environmental club and as well as Bob's gift shop. Pause the video and work on that. All right. So what I would like to do is I'm going to go through the bell work A and bell work B with you to help you understand exactly how to calculate these percent values, okay? So the first one says this: the 10 students in the environmental club represent 5% of the students in the 7th grade. Now, when you think about part and whole, you need to think about big and small, right? Pieces, right? The part is pieces and whole includes total amount, everyone all together. The first thing I'm going to do here as I start off this problem, as I told you in class, is to first start off by writing percent over 100 is equal to part over whole, right? I'm going to start off by writing it just like that because I want to remember this is what I'm looking at, right? Percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. I have to identify, okay, what did they give me? Did they give me the percent? Did they give me the part? Did they give me the whole? In most situations, they're going to give you 2 out of these 3 parts. I know I'm repeating myself and I'm kind of recovering and going back over, revisiting the content from 6.2b, but I want to make sure you really get this, okay? The 10 students in the environmental club represent 5% of the students in the 7th grade. So when I think about this, the part here, I'm thinking about the environmental club, whereas the whole is going to represent the 7th grade. Notice that there are 2 different categories: 7th graders, all the 7th graders, and every club that exists. And then the part is only focusing on those who are in the environmental club. Ladies and gentlemen, you recognizing how to read these word problems, how to highlight and underline what's important is going to be essential, not only in this unit, not only in word problems, but even when we go into statistics, because we got a couple of things going on here. 10%, 10 students in the environmental club, 5% of students, 7th grade, right? These are important concepts that we need to look at and say, wow, okay, that's only the environmental club. This is all of the 7th grade. Okay, so now I'm going to take the information I have here and I'm going to apply it and put it inside of this formula that we've created. So the percent here is going to be 5 over 100 is equal to, okay, did they give me the part or did they give me the whole? This is the question that you need to ask yourself. 10 students in the environmental club, that's a piece of the entire 7th grade. That means that's a part. All over X, which is the whole 7th grade. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, after you have this set up, we cross multiply and we end up dividing to get our answer. I'm going to fully write it out for you. We get 5x is equal to 1,000. We divide both sides by 5, right? You can draw your line here. And we end up getting X is equal to 200. So how many students are there in the 7th grade? 200 students. And normally I do like to write a sentence saying there are 200 students in the 7th grade because it's a word problem. So they're expecting you to answer it in words. Just want to remind you students once again, okay? Let's look at B. Bob's gift shop sold 400 cards for Mother's Day. One salesman, Maya, sold 4% of the cards for Mother's Day. How many cards did Maya sell? Once again, I'm going to start off by writing percent over 100 is equal to part over whole. Just to remind myself, this is the base equation. This is what I need to make sure I recognize and see what pieces I have here, right? I noticed that it says Bob's Gift Shop sold 400 cards for Mother's Day. They sold 400 cards on Mother's Day. Okay. One of the salesmen, Maya, sold 4% of the cards for Mother's Day. So I see that Maya sold a portion of the cards. Notice I said portion, that's similar to part. So what I see here is they gave me the percent, 4 over 100. And I know that I'm looking for Maya's part. So I'm saying, okay, 4% is the part, but I don't know how much she actually sold. So I'm actually looking for how much she sold, even though it was 4%. And I know the total, which in this case is going to be 400. Okay. Once again, we're looking for the part in this one. So I'm a cross multiply. I end up getting 100x is equal to 1600. I want to solve for x by dividing by 100. You want to say hi? No, come over here and actually say hi to the camera. This is my son, okay? I know years from now, he'll probably be a lot bigger, so he may not be this big, but he wants to say hi. Great, thank you. I'll go back. Great, so we end up doing is we actually divide by 100 on both sides. We get x is equal to 16. Okay, that means that Maya sold 16 cards out of the 400 that was sold for Mother's Day. All right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, take your time. On the last worksheet 6.2b, there was about 5 or 6 independent practice, about 5 or 6 homework. Do all of those practice problems. Do even the problems that are on Delta Math as much as you need to in order to master the skill. All right, let's look on to what we're doing today. Now, I want to play around with decimals. I want to play around with fractions, okay? So please make sure you actually have a calculator present with you so that you're capable of doing that, all right? We're going to dive in right here at the modeling. All right, ladies and gentlemen, just give me 1 second. Let me go and grab my calculator. I'm back to recording. I got my camera, I got my calculator, got the camera on. My other son wants to say hi. You want to say hi? Oh, he said no. Elisha didn't want to say hi. The third son is not born yet. Just so you all know, let's go back and look at the worksheet. Look at modeling with me. All right, look at the modeling with me. It starts off by saying, what is 5% of 40, right? B is saying 114 is what percent of 600. C is saying 246.8 is what percent of 128. And D is saying 80.5% of 58. Now, I'm going to quickly go from A to D, and then we're going to look at B and C. Now, why am I doing that? A and D are very similar. B and C are very similar. Notice in A, they're asking for 5% of 40. Now, we could do the technique we learned on 6.2 or 6.2 here, right? Not 6.28, 6.2 itself, turn the percent into a decimal, multiply by 40. But instead, I want to show you the same technique we did in the bell work here to say, how does that apply? How does that technique doing fractions apply in this situation? We know that 5% is really 5 over 100. I think we did that in the very first lesson, 6.1, is equal to something over 40. Now, what does that mean? What is 5% of 40? They want to know what is 5% equivalent. Do you notice when we set up these fractions that the number that we're looking for is right across from the 5, or in other words, across from the 100 and across from the whole? In this case, we're not looking for the whole. We know the whole is 40. We need to figure out what 5% is. You want to come and say hi? You can come and say hi. Just wave at them. Okay, you let me know if you want to. Okay. Great. What we need to do here is we can cross multiply here as well and find it. But I want you to understand something. You could do this technique, or we could do the original technique we did. I'm going to do this technique here because I want to show you how it correlates with what we're doing. No, daddy's working. You can say hi and then you can go about your business. Okay, you want to say hi? No, you could do that another time. 1, 2. I love you. See you later. Okay, awesome. Let's cross multiply here. We end up getting 5 times 40, which we should know that's going to be 200, is equal to 100x. Okay, 5 times 4, which is 20, 200 x. Okay, we want to solve for x here. We're going to end up dividing by 100 because it says 100 times x is multiplication. We need to do the opposite, which is division. And as we divide, we end up getting x is equal to 2. If you were to turn that 5% into a decimal, 0.5, and multiply that by 40, you would have got the same exact answer here. I just want you guys to see that there's different ways of doing it. So, Mr. Whipper, why can't you just do it the way we did it in 6.1? The reason is because of B and C. And I'm going to show you B and C in a second, but let's just quickly go to D, okay? Let's quickly go to D. And with D, you can actually do, we could do it both techniques, both ways, okay? So let's just quickly, I'm going to draw a line here, and we're going to do it both ways. First, I have 80.5 all over 100 is equal to x over 58. Now, Mitchell, how do you know it's that? How do you know 58 is a whole rather than a part? Because they would have said something to us like, they would have said to us, they would have said, they were indicating that 58 was a part, which was equivalent to 80.5%. They would have said 84% is 58 of what number? Let me say it again. If they wanted us to recognize that 58 was a part rather than a whole, they would have said to us 80.5% is 58 of what number? And that's indicating that 80.5% and 58 would have been right across from each other, right? Just like this, right across. But they're not. They're saying to you, find what 80.5% is of 58, which means you got to find that percent of 58. Go back to the table. Go back to the table. Tell me in a little bit. Okay. What I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to first cross multiply like we've always done in our technique. 80.5 multiplied by 58, right, is going to give us 4,669, which is equal to 100x. Okay. Here we need to just divide it by 100, and we're going to simply get that x is equal to 46.69. Okay. Of course, we could turn it into a decimal here, make it look something like this, multiply that by 58, and we can also still get the same exact answer. Which is 46.69. Okay. Now, once again, you're probably, Mr. River, why are we two different techniques? You can do whatever technique you like, but I want you to recognize here the difference between A and D and B and C. Look at what B says. Let's look at B first. 114 is what percent of 600? Did they give us the percent here? No. They want you to find the percent. Oh, wow. Look at the wording too. 114 is what percent of 600, indicating that 600 is the whole and 114 is the part. Well, Mr. Warford, I knew that. It's easy. Look, 114 is smaller than 600. That means it has to be the part and 600 has to be the whole. Not true. Look at the wording for C. 246.8 is what percent of 128? Did you catch that? Which one is the part? Which one is the whole? I'll say it again. 246.8 is what percent of 128? Notice the words are similar to that of B. Whereas B, we said that 114 was the part, and we said that 600 was the whole. Look at the wording. 114 is what percent of 600? Notice these same exact words is what percent of, right? These words right here in the middle, I'll highlight them for you. Notice these words here are the same exact words that are here, is what percent of. Does that change the order now? Does the 246.8, because it's bigger than 128, become the whole now? No, it means that 246.8 is still the part and 128 is the whole. Okay, now, how do I go about finding this? Mr. Whitford, how do we go about finding the percent here? We go about doing it by setting up the proportion as well. Okay, I want to set up the proportion. Of course, as you get better and you get quicker at calculation, there is quicker ways to do this. but you are in the beginning stage of mastering the content. So we're going to take it one step at a time, reinforcing a technique. Okay. I'm so sorry. We're going to reinforce technique, as I was saying. We're going to end up doing, first thing we're going to do is put percent over 100 is equal to part. We know the part is 114 over whole, which in this case is 600. Now, what I'm looking for here, ladies and gentlemen, is the percent. So instead of putting the percent symbol, of course, we're going to put a variable, which is X. Okay. We're going to put X here. Now, all right, so Ms. Winford, how do I do this? First thing I want you to do is you could cross multiply here. Of course, you can cross multiply. You could do 114 times 100. You would get 11,400. Then you would say, okay, now I got to divide by 600. Excellent. And you would get 19. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay. Another way to do it is you could divide 114 divided by 600. You would get a decimal. You can multiply that decimal by 100. Okay. Once again, let me explain that again. If they ask you for the percent of a number and they gave you the part and the whole, the quickest way to do it is to divide the two of them and then multiply it by 100. Okay. So when it's said and done, the percent is going to be 19%. Whether you decide to cross multiply and you solve it using cross multiplication, or you divide it. When you divide it, you would have got 0.19. When you multiply that by 100, you get 19%. All right. This is what we end up getting here when we go to solve it. Now let's quickly do C. Now, once again, I told you in C that when they say these words is what percent of, they're telling you the first number is a part of the second number. Mr. Worker, is that okay to have a bigger number as the part? Of course, we are not afraid of mixed numbers. We're not afraid of improper fractions. We're not afraid of these things. It's okay. So I'm going to take the part, 246.8, and I'm going to divide that by 128. Okay. If you want to have it equal to X over 100 and you want to cross multiply, please do so. However, here I'm going to simply divide these two and I'm going to get a decimal. When I divide them, I put in 246.8 divided by 128, and I'm double checking my numbers to make sure they make sense. I get 1.928. Now notice there's some words here that I kind of skipped over, but now I realize how essential they are. And the words say round to the nearest thousandth. Round to the nearest thousandth. This one over here says the nearest tenth. So we're going to come back to that one and fix it as well. So you should be remembering tenths, hundredths, thousands. So I'm going to put the 8 there, but I'm also going to put the number that's right onto the right of 8 so I can know what place value should be. Okay, that's a 1. So I look to the right of it and I say if it's 4 or 5 or more, we raise the score. 4 or less, we let it rest. So in this case, we're going to leave it alone and leave it as 1.928. So I'm going to erase this 1, okay? Now that I got my decimal, I say, great, what did I do next? I need to multiply it by 100. Multiply this by 100. When I multiply by 100, I'm going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. I end up getting 192.8%. Please notice, ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting the percent sign. Ms. River, we never put this percent sign before when we solve for X. You have to. Why? Because they're asking you for the percent. They're not just asking you for what percent of this number. They're telling you we need to find the percent. Notice here they're giving us the part, they're giving us the whole, and they're not giving us the percent. I said to you earlier on, out of those 3, they're going to give you 2 of them. And your job is to find the last one. Okay? So when you read it, understand, okay, what are they giving me? Notice these keywords. Is what percent of? That means you need to find the percent, and that means the first number is the part, the second number there is the whole. All right? Notice you can either you can either divide first and then multiply that by 100 of the part divided by whole and then multiply by 100, or you can cross multiply, right? Taking the part, multiplying it by 100, X multiplied by the whole, and you still have to divide by 100. whatever you decide to do, whatever type of technique you feel more comfortable with, you need to do one of these two, and you need to show your work. It's okay to have decimals because our goal is to make sure we understand place value and how to round, okay? Just as a review, the first number after the decimal is called the tenths column. Second place is called the hundredths. If they ask you to round to the nearest 10, you look at the number to the right and you say, is this number 5 or more? If it is, then you raise the score, you raise the number in front of it. In this case, that number is. So the answer here is really going to be 47 as my answer. Is it 47%? No, just 47, because in this case, they wanted me to find the part. All right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment, rewind the video, watch it again, try to get the context, try to do a couple problems. If you want to send me a message on Google Classroom, send me a message to get better understanding of it, ask your teacher. This is the best way to do so that way you can get a better understanding of the content. Thank you so much for joining me with another math lesson with Mr. Orford. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.